And welcome back to Jenny from the Chopping Block Recipes for Success with Dr. Bryn Gillow. And I just want to welcome you first and foremost. I appreciate you coming on and just sharing your knowledge with us, sharing your perspectives on life and in self development and wellness. And I just wanted to ask you, I know you just recently got back from your first date with Destiny.
Yes.
How was that experience?
Oh, it was amazing. My husband and I have been waiting to go to Date with Destiny since 2019. So this was a long date in the making. And we absolutely loved it. There wasn't anything I went into Date with Destiny that I was like, oh, I need to work on this. I really need a breakthrough here. I was just going because I love anything Tony work. Um, And then when I got there, obviously, just like with any of his stuff, I was blown away and I was like, "Oh my god, 6 days of all of this." And there was so many things that just literally, blew my mind, and I found things and saw things that I never knew before, and it's really left a huge impact, bigger than UPW, obviously, and all that. It was so fantastic. So fantastic.
And it was cool because I was able to serve with Bryn during UPW like 2 years ago,
2 years, yeah, well, year and a half, yeah.
year and a half ago on the medical team, and then just
Mhm.
seeing you there in studio, like your energy, like your smiles, I was like, oh man, that looks like it was really awesome.
It was so good. That in-studio experience was really fantastic. That was an extra special treat for sure.
And how is it different, like from going from serving a couple of events to then diving into this, like, you know,
Yeah, it was definitely different. First of all, walking up to the place and seeing the crew members in their shirts, I'm like, "Hey, I'm part of you guys." It kind of felt weird not to be part of them, but, recognizing obviously some faces made you feel already like more in the family right away because there was familiar crew members there, which was awesome. But then being back in the seat is just so very different than serving. Um, yeah. I hadn't been in the seat in 3 years,
wow.
so it was good. It was really good.
And it showed. I mean, you were glowing, just from, I was crewing virtually, so I got to see everybody in studio, you and your husband together. I was like, "Oh my god." I didn't even know you were there. That was really cool.
That was awesome.
Yeah. And I wanted to talk to you about, this whole series is based on wellness, spirituality. I had a PA on, I want to learn more about like what got you into chiropractic. I remember I got an adjustment from you at one of the events and it felt so good.
Mhm.
Just like for you to be like a doctor and like, practice and have your own practice and then to be in the self-development world, it's just amazing to me, that
And
you have that.
yeah, to me, it's the most natural thing because funny enough, I mean, chiropractors in and of themselves, we kind of think outside of the box, right? Because we do something quite different. And then within chiropractic, you have different kind of fractions, just like I guess in most professions. And I definitely come from the very kind of extreme side to the one side. And there's a lot of self development in school, at our seminars. Like, seriously, I did my first fire walk at a chiropractic seminar 20 some years ago, because that's what we did. It's who you are as a person always precedes who you are as a chiropractor. So you need to work on yourself so you can show up as your best self in your profession. So we've done, boot camps and trust, exercises and all of that so much already in chiropractic school through the seminars I took.
Yeah, I remember you telling me at the event, like, you guys did your own fire walks, and I was like, "Wow, that's pretty amazing." Like,
Yeah.
it's so intricate and it's so, it could be scary, and it's like it was like nothing. We were actually pumping up to walk together, like, before
Mhm.
everybody, because of
Tony's firewalks are easier than the ones we did in that we did at the seminars, it was great. Well, the thing is a lot of the people that put on the seminars that I like to go to are people that have done Tony work. So I'm sure a lot of stuff is copied from Tony. Um, And, we just have a lot of people like Joe Dispenza, he's a chiropractor.
I did not
And,
know that.
oh, yeah, he went
Wow.
to the school where I started, like, he would show up at assemblies and seminars, like, he was just a regular speaker, and now look at him. Donnie Epstein, he would come to school and hang out, and, we have so much of that influence in our little fraction of chiropractic. Not all chiropractic schools have that, but where I went, and so I've kind of always taken that for granted, you know?
And what school did you go to? Where was it located?
I started at Life University, which is in Atlanta, Georgia. That's where Joe Dispenza went. And then I transferred to Sherman College of Chiropractic, which is a teeny tiny little school in South Carolina. And that's where Donnie Epstein's son, Danny, went. And I went to school right after him. So he was my chiropractor, and I learned from him and had, done seminars with Donnie and all that there.
And how did that impact you? Like, what did you learn, like, most from them?
There's so much there's so much more to the adjustment and to the human body than just bones and muscles and, nerves and all that. The tone, the energy, everything, and that's transmitted through the nervous system. So the nervous system is the key part to access that. And that's can be done in so many different ways, in so many different styles, and network is one, specific way of doing that. That's where Donnie just created this incredible system. But then there's many other ways of accessing the nervous system, and everybody finds their own best way, what works for them and for their patients and all that.
And just to backtrack, like, what got you into, I wanna hear more about, like, when you were younger, like, where you came from, like, how did you get into, um,
Yeah.
getting into the college, and how did that
So
interest you?
it was actually it's a bit of a funny story. Growing up in Germany, I had never heard of chiropractors. There's barely any chiropractors there, but, there was one chiropractor living or had moved to my hometown, and my mother had gone to him. So, when my sister was ready to graduate high school, my sister wanted to become a physical therapist, and she's like, "Oh, there's so many physical therapists. They're all over the place. Why don't you look at this chiropractic stuff?" So she invited the chiropractor over for coffee, and he talked to my sister. I'm 6 years younger than her, so that was a significant
Oh,
age difference,
yeah.
and before I know it, my sister, after high school graduation, moved to Atlantis. Like, "Atlantis? I didn't know that was a real place." Well, turned out it was Atlanta,
Yeah.
but as a 12-year-old, I had no idea, about American cities and all that. I just knew Atlantis, so pictured her in a sunken city. But she had moved to Atlanta.
Yeah.
Um, and then when I was 16, I visited her for the first time, and we went to Disney World and all that, and she explained chiropractic to me, and the more I learned and the more she told me, like, we would spend hours on the phone and all this, which was expensive back in the day. You paid per minute.
Mhm.
Um, and she explained chiropractic to me, and I don't know, I was just like, "I don't get it, but I wanna do it too." So after I left when I was 16, when I had visited her for a couple of weeks, I said, "I'm gonna be back here in 2 years, and I'm gonna do this as well." And yeah, 2 years later, I showed up on her doorstep and moved in with her, and she was about ready to graduate. And, yeah, I really couldn't explain chiropractic to people at that point. I didn't know what it was, but I knew I really wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And
And
then
you're
the
really
more I learned and the more I went to classes, the more excited I got about it. I'm like, "Wow, I get to do this for the rest of my life?"
Mhm.
So, yeah.
And it probably was like, because I can't think of, or I've never heard of any other profession where they're implementing, like, the self-development stuff into the teachings, like, into your
Yeah.
curriculum, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's amazing that you had, like, the both of those worlds that seem to be really passionate about.
Mhm. Well, I didn't know I was passionate about, self-development. Philosophy is literally we in 12 quarters, we have 8 classes. In 8 quarters, we have classes for philosophy because the why is always the most important,
Absolutely.
So
And for those who are new to hearing, like, for me, I always say if your why doesn't make you cry, it's not your why.
Mhm.
Because it's just like, why do you do what you do? Why are you passionate about what you're doing? If it means that much to you, like the how, you don't even care because you'll
Yeah.
find a way.
Yeah.
Was there anything that you learned like within those that substantial curriculum in philosophy talking about the why that really stuck with you?
Oh, well, going into the chiropractic part of it all, um, is that my why for taking care of people, for, working with chiropractic on people is all right. I have to do a little explanation here so this makes sense. Okay.
Mhm. Yeah, of course.
Because most likely barely anybody has heard of the word subluxation.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of that term?
Mm-mm.
No? So, a subluxation is when a bone in your spine, I should have brought a spine model. I'm sorry, I didn't think of that. When a bone in your spine, you have all these bones lined up on top of each other that make up your spinal column, and your nervous system goes through there, your spinal cord. And then in between the bones, the nerves come out and they go everywhere in your body. They go to every single cell in your body, connecting your brain to, your heart, your lungs, your liver, your toes, your fingers. Everything has that connection through the nervous system, but it all has to come through your spine first. And when a bone in your spine shifts just ever so slightly out of alignment, it now puts pressure on those nerves. Okay. So that pressure then messes up that electric signal that comes through there. It's kind of like static on the radio.
Mhm.
Okay. It messes up that signal. And that's called a subluxation. That's what that means. And when you have a subluxation, it can cause pain. Obviously, we all think about back pain, neck pain, headaches, right? Pain running down the leg, sharp shooting pain, spasms. That's what we think about when we think about chiropractic, right? But most of the nerves that are running through your spine, more than 80% of all those nerves are nerves you'll never be able to feel, even if you have pressure on them.
Hmm.
Yeah, exactly. That's the face most people make when I tell them that. Because those are the nerves of the autonomic nervous system, all the stuff that happens automatically. Okay,
Oh,
so it's not the sensory nerves,
yeah.
it's not the motor nerves, it's all the other nerves. And those nerves control how your kidneys work. How's your pancreas today? How's your spleen functioning? Can you tell? Can you feel it? No, right? But obviously, your brain is communicating with all those organs.
Sometimes I feel like I can feel it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So, all of those nerves that are traveling through there, they are responsible for the chemicals in your body that create your emotions too.
Mhm.
For you to feel love, for you to feel joy, for you to feel sadness, those are chemical reactions. How do you create chemical reactions? Well, glands have to release those chemicals. And it's the nervous system that tells those glands to do that, right? So when we change our state, and I think anybody in the Tony world knows what it means to change your state, right? By changing your state with jumping, with singing, or with how you change the meaning of your words or your focus, you are now asking different glands to activate and put out certain chemicals, right? And that's what makes you feel different. That's what changes that. Now, but your nervous system still needs to be the conductor for all of that. And when a bone in your spine is subluxated, meaning out of alignment and putting pressure on that nerve, you might not get the response that you're supposed to get. So, how are you supposed to live your life truly, fully the way you're designed to if your communication system isn't working right, if they're static on your own inner communication system? And with the static on the radio, it's one of my favorite examples because we all understand what static on the radio is like, right? It's pretty annoying. Nobody wants it. And you're trying to find a better channel, and that's kind of like having pain. That's when you have headaches or back pain or whatever it is. But that's when you know what to do about it. How many thousands of radio channels are out there that you're not listening to? You wouldn't know if they have static on them. And that's what I'm talking about with all the nerves in your body that are going on in there. And you don't know they have static, so you don't know to do anything about it, but your body can't function right. So that might mean that you have allergies that you're not really supposed to have. You might have digestive stuff that you really don't need to have. That might mean that your emotional balance isn't where it's supposed to be. All of those things, they're all controlled by your nervous system. And once I realized that in school, that my why, that's not, you see big circle. Now we're coming back to your to your question. My why for adjusting people, for them, when they come to me, it's to get rid of pain.
Yeah.
But for me, it's to allow them, not allow them is not a great word. I just learned that in the last date with Destiny, with that lady who was allowing her husband to do something. Do you remember that?
Yep.
That I can facilitate that their body actually functions fully and healthy from the inside out, that the pain goes away as a side effect.
Mhm.
But I am there to be able to make their life better.
Absolutely.
So my purpose for adjusting is for anybody, any age, any life situation, who wants to have more life energy flowing through their body to function as wholly, and as wholly, not as holy, but as a whole, okay, as wholly as possible. And that excites the heck out of me, that this is something I can do for any person. That's why I get to work with babies. That's why I get to work
Aw.
with people in their 90s. That's why I get to work with wonderful families that are coming for wellness care, for lifestyle care, because they want to get the most out of their body and their life. And they see those changes when they come and get adjusted. They don't want to go back to the way they used to be. So that's the why that I learned through school, and that, after 22 years in practice, I still get excited about every single day.
Aw. And it shows, and I feel like you're so gentle. Like, when I got the adjustment, it just you were gentle, but, like, it released, like, so much, whatever it is, tension or
Yeah.
whatever it was in there.
That's why we call it the adjustment.
And I've been interested ever since I experienced that with you, just more and more, because I was like, I've only experienced this type of work a couple of times, and it amazes me.
Yeah. And, network chiropractic is even 20 times more gentle than what I do.
Oh, I didn't think the network chiropractor that
Mhm.
worked on me, it felt a little, it was more like in my neck, and it felt a little hard, like harsher than the way
That
you.
that might have been other parts of the adjustment that he was using. Like I said earlier, every chiropractor kind of builds their own little menu of what they use. But the contacts that network does, where you feel like they're barely touching you, that little pressure in
Oh,
certain
yeah,
spots,
okay, now I remember. Yeah,
that's the network part.
that's like
That's the
fun.
network part. But then when they do the structural adjustment, that could be technique dependent, and but because I do so much of that, I'm really damn good at
Woohoo.
it.
I'm curious to, like, what causes the shifts in our, like, what causes these, like, shifts maybe we're not even conscious of, or
Yeah.
how does
Oh
that
my gosh. You name it. So what would you think could cause your spine to shift out of alignment, to get subluxated, if we want to use the technical term?
I think I need an adjustment. I sit awkward.
Okay.
Like, right now, I'm not even sitting properly. Like, my body weight's all on my right side.
Mhm.
My posture is better than it used to be, but it's not great.
So prolonged postures of sitting in awkward positions
Yeah.
most definitely can cause shifts in the spine, can cause subluxations. Definitely. How about sitting like this in front of a computer with our head posture forward, or looking at a phone like this for as much as we do? And I love that you went into a postural thing right away, because most people think, oh, when I get into a car accident or I fall down a flight of stairs, yeah, that can get your spine out of alignment. That can cause subluxations for sure.
But it
Think
could be
of,
things in our everyday life that we do, or how we,
yes,
yeah.
those are actually the most common. Often, traumas and injuries are part of it, but then we really accentuate it with our day to day small little stuff, sleeping in weird positions, having crooked posture. Just, when we work out, your one side might be a little bit stronger than the other, and then you're always working hard on that side, and that's creating a torsion in your spine. You name it. There is, for guys, sitting on a wallet in their back pocket, sitting crooked like that.
Oh,
For
wow.
women, carrying a purse always on one shoulder, they always have to hold that shoulder higher, and then they wonder why the bra strap falls down on that side. And obviously, it can happen from day one. I mean, think of the birth process. Think
Yeah.
of that pulling and twisting that happens when a baby is born.
Aw.
They use quite a bit, 40 to 50 pounds of pressure to pull on an infant's head during delivery.
Aw. I never
Yeah.
thought of that
So,
before.
and if you think of a baby being born with the head being twisted and pulled, right, to be guided as gently as they can out of the birth canal. But after the baby's born, would you ever pick up a baby by its head to move it somewhere else?
Mm,
Yeah, no. C-section, they lift the baby straight up by the head and pull it out of the womb. I mean, that's stressful. So that's why I check infants literally from day one,
And is
you know?
there some, like, element of, like, intuition? Like, how do you know where to adjust? How do you know I obviously went to school, but if you could say, like, to a simple, mind that doesn't know much about it, like,
It's
how do you
tone.
know tone?
It's tone. After years of learning and doing it a gazillion times, at this point, the best way I can describe it is tone. When I put my fingers, just like I did when I felt your neck, right? When I put my fingers on there, I feel, to me, it feels either angry or stuck or frustrated. I literally feel those emotions in those spots where after an adjustment or when somebody's in good alignment, to me, it feels at ease and it feels happy and it feels smooth and moving. But that's me. Another chiropractor who I took a seminar and I loved his seminar, but he describes it different. He hears sounds. He hears a high pitched sound. He hears a dark grumble sound. He hears different sounds, and that lets him know where he needs to go, where he needs to assist. So we all end up with our own interpretation of it because it is an art. But, if we go into school technicalities, I would tell you which muscles are pulling, where we have stuck range of motion. Those are the technicalities.
So
But
so I was in a mastermind where John Amaral, I don't know if you're familiar with him, he's one of
I
Tony's network chiropractors.
cool.
And he's such a nice guy. I see him at events and he gives me a hug and he's just super friendly. He doesn't have to even pay attention to me.
But why wouldn't he? You're awesome.
Oh, thank you. But he's there probably to work with Tone, and he had us on like we were in an intimate mastermind with him, and he had us like one thing I remember from him was like he had us make sounds with our, just like because he was saying how like we're told to like be quiet and like not like talk loud or not like there's so much sound in us that like you want to release. Like that was part of his,
Mhm.
lecture, whatever you want to call it, for the hour we had with him. And he does a lot of the energy work also, which is so cool to watch. He was actually
Yes.
on Heel with Gwyneth Paltrow. Um,
Cool.
there's a huge segment that he has on there. And I've just been following him ever since because not only is he a nice guy, it's just something that I find fascinating.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you, like, knowing that side of chiropractic, like I'm learning a little bit here and there. Like you were talking about emotions, and that's something I think we're all interested in. How that could affect our nervous system and our bodies, and what role that might play in our lives. Because we could sit funny and we could have our wallet on the side in our purse, but what about like our emotional state? How does that affect not only our nervous system.
So how do the emotions affect our nervous system
Yeah,
in return?
yeah,
Well, think of it this way. When you're stressed, when you're under pressure, what posture do you go into? You go into this, right? If you're scared, if you're stressed, everything gets tighter. Now, we all have right and left balance in our body, obviously, and we all tend to have a side that's a little bit stronger than the other side, our fine motor skilled side versus our gross motor skilled side and all that. So if just like, let's say your neck is tense from the stress or the anger or the frustration that you're in, your neck is tense. Well, the muscles on the right hand side might tighten up a little bit more than the ones on the left hand side. So if that happens frequently and for long periods of time, you now are starting to actually create a shift because those muscles are pulling on those bones more. So emotions like that can actually also create those subluxations.
So is there certain body parts like that hold different things? Like I've heard this before, like I forget who was saying it, but they were saying they were doing the work like emotionally. It was in one of the other mastermind or maybe a book digest we were doing. And I remember we were talking about like doing the work, right? Like we're doing
Mhm.
the work on our mental emotional state. But then I think she realized like the pain that she was having was like due to like an emotional thing that she hadn't dealt with. And no matter what she would do, it wouldn't help because she had to go to that root.
It's definitely a circuit that can, those spirals can go in so many ways. You need a pattern interrupt. And for some people, that pattern interrupt can be the adjustment and it releases things. Like I am always so thrilled when people tell me after a certain, time frame of adjustments when their body's starting to change that they're able to get off of the anxiety medications, that they're able to get off, antidepressants, that they just feel like they're just happier and all that. So that was their pattern interrupt, right? Um, and we all know that, this kind of posture, just like Tony always teaches, well, if you're like this, what kind of energy are you putting out? Well, that energy is not just the energy you're putting out from this, but you're now also compressing your nervous system. You're literally lowering the frequency of energy going through your nervous system versus when you're like this, you're putting out totally different energy, right? Because your brain and your body also can, you know, really send more electric signals through your system. So that up posture, feeling up and feeling down, has so much to do really in both directions. So we can take all of those topics, and there's never one answer. There's
Yeah.
always multiple things that we have to all address together. And just one needs to be the facilitator and the push that gets you somewhere else.
And, for those of us that might not be able to go to a chiropractor all the time, is there anything that you've learned or you might recommend to patients that we could do like on the everyday, like whether it's a stretch or something to help aside from posture, like just being aware? Like someone told me once, like pretend there's a string pulling you up.
Mhm. Like
For
the top of your skull
yeah,
holding you up, yeah.
it's hard to keep that all the time.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. It's really hard. I really love the Egoscue stuff for at home,
Yeah,
little things. I give those to my patients, and then we do stuff with that with Egoscue as well. Um, Really, you can't do chiropractic at home. I
yeah,
can't adjust myself. That's a bummer. So it's tough to say on that end. I mean, all the other things would be just good exercises that you would get from places like yoga and Egoscue and all that, but none of that replaces the actual spinal adjustment, the actual tune up,
and how often do you recommend getting a tune-up?
once a week.
Once a week, cool.
Yeah. And
Okay.
I loved that Tony during his when the first 2 times I heard Tony from stage, he would say on Sunday, because he was there on Sunday on the first UPW I did, he was there on Sunday still,
On
which was
health day,
fantastic.
cool.
Yeah, exactly. And he would from stage say, "Once a week, make sure your nervous system is in good shape, go see your chiropractor once a week." That he even said the once a week because even in the chiropractic community, we're fighting about that. Everybody has different opinions. But
Why do
I
you
can tell you for myself, that's what I do for myself. That's what I do for my family. So why would I treat anybody else any different?
and, not only serving others, but doing it yourself, like, what are the differences? Like, say if you don't do it, what do you feel different? Like, can you notice it? Like,
Oh, I by the time I feel the difference, I know I've waited too long. That's kinda like not brushing your teeth. For how long would you have to wait before you feel a difference? I mean, you would feel that, weird, sensation in your mouth somewhat quickly, maybe, but you don't wanna wait for the toothache to start, you
correct.
know? And with the knowledge that I have about the nervous system, I don't want any pressure on my nervous system any longer than I have to, and the potential to get subluxated, to get your spine shifted out of line is there on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
With all the stuff that we do and, some people crazier than others. I mean, obviously we have those weekend warrior people that like to beat themselves up and all of that stuff, or construction workers and, just heavy physical work. But then you have the desk jockeys that, sit for 10, 12 hours a day, and that's just as much stress on their spine. How long do you want to keep that on there?
Mhm.
So,
Ay, caramba. And that's crazy. So, I wanted to ask you, like, what if somebody has like serious, like, obviously you probably deal with like inner, like a bunch of different people, or do you have
oh
like a
yeah.
specialty or like a something that the type of injuries or like
I get anybody and everybody. I mean, seriously, from infants to, the elderly and everybody in between.
what if somebody has like spinal stenosis or slip discs?
I work with them
How do you do it?
gently.
Right.
It really always depends on what they need. I mean, I do an exam, I do X-rays, I do motion study X-rays to really figure out what they need and how I can best assist them and, make sure they get the best care possible.
Alright. So what would you say to somebody who's on the fence of, like, going to see a chiropractor, or is there a certain, I think I talked to you or maybe it was Chris, like, how to get in touch with, like, somebody here in New York, 'cause you're in Pennsylvania?
I'm in Pennsylvania, I'm in the
Not too
Poconos.
far. Okay. Oh, that's not far at all.
Yeah, I know,
Okay. And, like,
but too far for a weekly adjustment.
does insurance cover it? Like, how would you recommend somebody, like, looking
Ugh,
into it? Is there, like, a
after
website?
21 years, I actually finally went out of network with any insurances because insurance it's not healthcare. We know that. It's more sick care than anything. I don't want to be dictated by an insurance company how to take care of my patients.
Cool.
So I do not do insurance anymore. But yes, there is some insurance plans that cover chiropractic care, but they have their rules. It's got to be this, that, and the other. And I don't know. That should be up to the chiropractor to make that determination, not to the insurance company. I'm not a big fan anymore of that.
Okay.
Um, I was never a fan of it. I just always was afraid. What if I don't take insurance? Then they might not come.
Mhm.
And at AUPW, I made that decision. I'm going to cut out insurance because it's causing me so much stress in my life. Why am I going to continue doing it? So, kick that baby out.
So, how would
Um,
you recommend, is there a way, like, how would you recommend somebody maybe living in another state, like, to
it
look?
it really depends on what you're looking for. I mean, I personally, because of the way I practice chiropractic, I would go on Google or DuckDuckGo or whatever and try to see, who is in the area. And then I would look at how do they practice. For me, a practice that I would go to is a practice that sees the entire family, that
Cool,
also takes care of children, that also takes care of pregnant mamas and all of that, because that's how I know that their mindset is not just on the treatment of that immediate pain, but their mindset is, I want to help those people express their most life and potential as possible,
cool,
not just the treatment of backaches and neck aches. Because that's when you get a gazillion other things coming in with it as well, whatever else they might do for you. And what they consider what I do, it's kind of in our profession labeled as straight chiropractic, has nothing to do with gay or straight, but meaning focused. We really exclusively do the chiropractic adjustments. We don't do nutrition, we don't do weight loss, we don't do, a gazillion other things
Do
because
some people do all that?
oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, there's a lot of
Oh,
chiropractors that barely adjust, and they do a lot of other things, and they do that because their why is different.
yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's not that they're bad in any way, shape, or form, but if their why is to help people with low back pain, then they will do anything they can to help the low back pain.
Mhm.
And there's a lot more things than chiropractic that can help low back pain.
Like?
Well, a lot of people have to lose weight, they have to do other training, they might need, um, supplements, they might need, whatever, they might do electric stim on them, they might do all sorts of other things that are all in the alternative, healthcare field, but they might do laser, they might do this, they might do that. But since that is not my focus is to maximize the expression of life and health in people. The adjustment is what I exclusively work with, and that's my specialty.
Beautiful. Do you ever get, like, patients? Because I feel like any doctor, you probably get the emotional side of, like, oh, like, you get some of that put on you. Not that it's necessarily a bad thing, but I'm sure you hear about that.
Oh
Um,
gosh, yes,
how do you
yes.
how do you deal with that side of it?
Actually, interestingly enough, for a while, my wrists really hurt, and that's because I ended up taking in so much of their negative energy. I absorbed too much of it,
Oh, wow.
instead of just letting it go through me and let it out.
Yeah.
Um, but I learned ways of not doing that. The most immediate was to wash my hands a lot with very much salt water to
Cool.
cleanse myself
Yeah.
off of that. It was actually really interesting. Um, but, to just become so much more grounded in myself that I wouldn't take on their pain. But I really do get very close with my patients because most of them I see intensely in the beginning, and then a lot of them have been with me for many years, so I know their families and I know their stuff. And if somebody dies, I go to the funerals and I'm there for their baby and I'm there. You know what I mean? Like it's very wonderful and close connections, and sometimes those connections are very hard.
That's beautiful, and they're definitely lucky to have you.
Oh, and I'm lucky to have them. I feel like I have the best practice members ever.
And I have a couple fun questions, but I wanted to ask you, I'm still curious about, like, how you started your practice. Like, so we kind of talked about the schooling and how you went to Atlanta and how it was cool because then you went to South Carolina and it was a little bit more intimate and you had that element of, like, your why and self-development. But how did you go from there? Did you go straight into your own practice or was there something that
So
happened?
the way this happened is I was very young when I graduated because I really knew what I wanted to do. I was 22, just about 23 when I graduated with my doctorate.
Wow.
Yeah. Um, I kind of took the fast track. And in order to go back to Germany, because my plan was always to move back to Germany. In Germany, to practice chiropractic, I had to become a naturopath first. And for that, I would have to take an exam. And for that exam, you had to be 25 years old. So I'm like, well, I'll stay here in the US for a little while and get my feet wet, because when you become a chiropractor, you're trained to be a chiropractor. You're not trained to be a business owner. You're not trained to deal with employees and with marketing and with finances and, so I'm like, okay, I'll work for somebody first, learn all of that kind of stuff, and then I'll go back to Germany.
Okay.
So I found this incredible lady that had 3 offices here in the Poconos. And I said, "I wanna work for you." And luckily, she wanted me to work for her. So she put me into one of her offices, and the other associate that was in there left shortly after. And, then I was running her office, and after, like, a year and a half or so, I said to her, I'm like, "Dr. Sharon, I know I had said I would leave after a while, but I don't want to." I literally could not imagine myself leaving my patients. I felt such a connection with my patients.
Yeah.
I don't love the area that I'm in. I mean, the Poconos overall is not bad, but, ending up in Broadettsville, Pennsylvania was not my life's dream. Um, but I just love the office that I'm in. So she said, "Well, if you work for me 5 years, I'll sell you the place." And that's what we did. Yeah.
Wow,
And it
cool.
was thank goodness we did that because it was right around the time, right before I was purchasing the office, that I met my husband.
Aw.
So I wouldn't have met him otherwise.
How'd you guys meet? I never asked you.
Oh, he picked me up on the dance floor in a nightclub.
Really? Oh, I thought you guys met at a Tony event.
No, God, no. He had no idea about any of that stuff. He's like, "You're batshit crazy, woman."
And I feel like he's still dancing like he did when he picked you up.
Well, we met on the techno dance floor. This was totally our music.
That's
Yeah. And it
hilarious.
was my birthday. I always call him my birthday present from the universe.
Aw.
Yeah.
So you met your husband during that time
Yep.
and then bought the business after spending
Mhm.
5 years. You're still kinda young at that
Yep.
point, and
Yeah, I
how
was 27,
wow,
28.
wow. And how
Yeah.
did she, like, teach you, like, all the ropes? Like, how like, obviously, it was already established, but
Full
the
immersion.
stuff
Full
that
immersion, baby. Just
comes
like
up.
Tony says, massive action and full immersion. I jumped into that practice and that was it. You did everything. I had to, she even made me fire the employees when there was issues. She's like, "There's a problem, you go fire them." I'm like, "Great. I'm 23 years old. Here I'm sitting in front of this person that has worked here for several years and I get to go." And they'd be like, "Yep, sorry, not working out."
Was that the hardest thing you had to do?
Oh no, I've had to do much harder things.
Like, what?
But no, she just gave
Did
me all the responsibilities, and every week she just asked me, "What are your plans? What are you doing? How are you growing the practice? What are you doing?" So she always made me, set goals and do all of that stuff, and she had her own coaching program, so she was fully aware of mindset stuff and all that. It was very important what kind of language we use, like, wording is important and how we show up. She always said, "If you're on fire for something, they're gonna come and watch you burn." So,
what do you think the hardest part of, like, starting? Because, like, obviously, you're focused on your why and what you wanna do, but then you have all the other elements, like you said, like, you have to be in charge of the people that are working there, the business itself. Like, was that hard for you?
yeah, employees are really hard.
Yeah. Dang.
Yes, but it all comes with it, and I appreciate the heck out of the people that I have.
Mhm. And what's, like, how do you hire them? Like, what's their credentials that you look for?
A joy for life. That's
Mhm.
the most important. I make them read books about stuff about, what do they want to achieve in life so that I know how I can support them in the
Good.
position that they're in. And yeah, I need people that are honest and trustworthy and show up and, just like in any other profession. And people that truly care. I want them to love coming to work, coming to the office.
And is
If
there a book that you, like, usually recommend or something that will help them navigate that?
Well, a book that I've been using with my staff for a while is called The Big Five for Life.
Cool.
It's really more meant for business owners, but I think anybody the first half of the book is really for anybody. Where it's kind of funny because some of the stuff is what you work on with in Date for Destiny, because you come up with your PFE, which is your purpose for existence, which is your mission statement in life.
Mhm.
Right? So you come up with your purpose for existence, and then you come up with the top 5 things that are most important for you in life to achieve. And when you achieve them, then you plug in new things, but to have those and to know, then you can base all of your decisions and all of your time management and all of that on, is this helping me to get to this goal or is it not? Is this helping me to get there or not? So it gives you a framework. And when I know the purpose for existence for somebody that's working for me, and if I know their big 5 for life, what they want to achieve, then we can see how them working for me can move them towards those big 5 because that's what's always going to motivate them.
Mhm.
And that's how I think you create a really good working relationship. And that's what the book is about, how employers and employees and all that, how you can create a better structure like that.
Gorgeous. Well, I just want to let you know. So I wanted to ask you a couple of fun questions, and I was grateful to have served with you because I did. There's certain things that we spoke about. Not only our little when we were running on with the wheelchair after helping that woman through the hallways, uh,
Yeah.
but I remember our conversation about snacking. And I've been
I'm
on my
really good at snacking.
about like my weight loss journey. I had lost some weight before I met you, and we were talking about it. And I think, you mentioned like how snacking isn't the way, right? So it's something I actually cut out. Like, how, if you just want to explain to the audience, because that was so impactful for me and it did change some of the habits that I had.
Oh, cool. Sure. Um, this is all stuff that I learned through an insulin-friendly eating program that I was on. I was working on working myself up to a 7-day fast because I wanted to challenge my body to that. But what I learned, and it helped me a lot too, is that when you eat, your insulin level goes up, right? To break down the food and the blood sugar, blah, blah, blah. And then your insulin is supposed to go back down. And then when you eat next time, it goes back up and then it's supposed to go back down. That is the normal insulin response that we're supposed to have. But the way that most of us are eating is we eat, our insulin goes up, and then our insulin just goes down a little bit, couple of hours, and then we snack. And oh, now the insulin has to go higher. And then it comes down a little bit, and then we snack again, and then it goes higher. So our insulin levels are never really coming back down. And that's what's creating frequently this insulin resistance, which makes it very hard to lose weight.
Yeah.
And that's why intermittent fasting is valuable for people. And I'm not a dietitian, but it really worked for me well because I dropped 50. Well, I lost a bunch of weight before then, but overall I had dropped 50 pounds. Um, and the intermittent fasting really took the last 20 pounds off, which I wasn't even expecting at that point anymore. Um, the 7-day fast got me even much lower than that, but I didn't want to be at that weight. That was not a good weight. It was just something to do for myself to really do a deep cleanse of my tissues. Um, but the snacking really is hard on the body. You are so much better off with just eating 2 or 3 meals, but let your body, the insulin come down in between before you spike it back up.
Yeah, I never forgot that conversation we had. So I wanted to bring it up in case it could serve others.
Yeah.
That stuck with me
And
through
as
our
with anything, there's multiple different philosophies out there. There might be somebody listening saying, "Yeah, I completely don't agree with that."
and that's
Okay.
fine, and it's cool because we have our conversations with people we trust, and obviously I'm gonna trust you who's lost 50 pounds.
And that was my goal. Now, somebody like my husband right now is gonna work on gaining muscle. Well, guess what? He's gonna be snacking. He is
Yeah,
supposed to have that, but he is on a completely different journey than what I was on.
mhm,
So, in some cases, snacking might be a really good thing.
yeah, makes sense, yeah, but I just like, I did life mastery. I would say I experienced it and then I crewed twice, so I've done it 3 times in the past 2 years, and so I've learned a lot through that. It's one of my favorite Tony Robbins events.
Really?
I learned a lot more about the benefits of intermittent fasting. Like, I wasn't always
Mhm.
a fan of it because 'cause I'm such a big breakfast girl, um, but just the health benefits and, like, obviously Tony has, like, all the cutting edge, like, health professionals, the best in the industry to provide us with different information, and sometimes, like you said, those doctors even contradict each other,
Yep.
just their take on wellness. And but the intermittent fasting for older people, like it's good for everybody, but like even like my dad's been doing it and he lost about 27 pounds.
Mm. That's
So it's
awesome.
just so like realizing how good it is for you. But it also, it starts with these little conversations you have with people that it works for, right?
And I was the person seriously, as a teenager, I would only wake up because I was hungry on the weekend. That was my reason for waking up. And even as an adult, for all these years, up until just a few years ago, if I didn't eat within an hour of getting up, I was nauseous. I was lightheaded. I didn't think I could get from the couch to the kitchen.
Mhm.
Like, I would have my husband bring me food.
Mhm.
Like, "Oh, I can't do it. I'm gonna pass out." And hangry was definitely a definition for me. And then I realized this is all made up bullshit in my head. It's just what I thought and my body responded.
Absolutely.
Now I can, easily go no problem 24 hours and not eat. I'll feel the hunger. And I'm like, oh, shut up.
Mhm.
And oh, guess what? Half an hour later, the hunger is gone and nothing happened. I didn't die.
Mhm. Maybe I'm just thirsty. That's one I always think of.
Oh, water. Oh, water. Yes.
So, it's about the top of the hour, so I just have a couple more questions on the food topic because my plan is to maybe take some of this, content and create a cookbook. I'm
Oh,
curious to what is maybe your favorite food and or recipe. Something like your go-to food, something you love, something maybe I could recreate.
well, my favorite food is not healthy food.
That's okay. It could be good for your soul, right?
Yeah, you don't wanna be making Christmas cookies, you know what I mean?
I do.
Um, but I'm not much of a cook. I don't
Okay,
cook a whole lot. I am very, very spoiled and have somebody who comes to the house that makes food for us a couple of
gorgeous.
times a week. Um, yeah, a patient of mine, and she loves it. We trade this way, and it's a wonderful, wonderful setup. Um, there's I eat overall, I really do eat healthy. I eat salads a lot and, make sure I get my protein in and all the different happy greens and all that. But I don't know if I have a specific recipe for
Is there
something.
something that she makes that you're like, "Oh my god, this is it. Like, I love it." Or just give me, like, a couple of ingredients that I could play with.
You know what? I have a fantastic chickpea curry salad, if that's something you're interested in.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's like something different and it's just yummy and it's full of goodness. If you like curry and if you like chickpeas, it's a vegetarian. I actually think it's vegan. I'm not vegetarian or vegan, but I know it came from a really good, healthy place,
Cool,
and
I
we
would
love it.
love that.
It's something that I bring to picnics.
Do you have a little insight on that I could
I'll send you the link.
perfect, okay.
Yes,
Um,
curry chickpea salad.
sounds good. I actually have curry chickpeas in my fridge right now.
Nice. Yeah.
And then my next question is if you had a superpower, if you could have a superpower, because you already do, what would that be?
Oh, I don't know.
Would you wanna fly? Would you wanna read minds? Would you
I don't wanna read minds. Heck
wanna
no.
get
I don't wanna see what's
invisible?
in people's head. That is not a place to be. I mean, with Tony, maybe, but otherwise, no, I don't wanna know what people are thinking. Flying would be cool. Shape-shifting would be cool. Like, that would be really fun.
Mhm.
Teleporting, because my family is in Europe, I would love to teleport, just to be closer to them and see them and quick give my dad a hug and be back here.
Aw, so sweet.
So maybe for practical reason, I'd go with teleporting.
Love it. Okay. Oh, is there anything your mom or dad makes or grandma made that you love, like food-wise?
My dad doesn't cook at all.
Okay.
My mom, oh, she made some really good German meatballs
Mm.
and pasta casserole and carrot salad.
Okay, now we're talking.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Alright, I could work with all that.
A really simple carrot salad, I'm always surprised not more people eat it, is literally just shredded carrots with a little bit of shredded apple in it, and then your favorite dressing. I like a type of a ranch dressing on top or an apple cider vinaigrette, and that's a beautiful salad right there.
Mhm.
Just shredded carrots and a little bit of shredded apple in there.
Incredible. All right. Is there anything else that you want to share that's on your heart? Anything we didn't touch on, maybe within your practice or in your self development or something for the community? Maybe what brought you to Tony? Um,
I would say you asked earlier about if somebody is hesitant about chiropractic. I would say you never know how much good it can do for you until you try it. And if you've never considered it for yourself, you definitely should.
Mhm.
Um, it's it's a healthy lifestyle thing to do. If you care about your overall physical health and well-being, make sure to check it out, to see for yourself.
Yeah, like I do reflexology and like I get massages like pretty often
Good.
to just relieve some of the tension I guess I have in my back
Mhm.
and like my feet and my legs because I am on my feet a lot. Um, but what's the difference? Like because that seems like people would go to that. Like I personally would go to that.
Yeah, so obviously I love massages. Massages are fantastic. They work on the muscle,
Yeah.
right? Reflexology, they use specific reflex points to activate things. Acupuncture, I love acupuncture. That deals with the peripheral nervous system to remove blockages from the nervous system outside of the spinal cord and the brain. Um, None of them can replace each other.
Mhm,
All of them are really good things.
mhm.
But getting the central nervous system, the main part of your spine in good alignment is just very honestly a big basis for it all. If that's not clear, then you're not going to get as much out of the reflexology. You're not going to get as much out of the massage or anything else because often the muscles get tight again because the bones are out of alignment.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of like putting premium fuel into a really old car.
Oh man.
Yeah, no, I'm not calling you a really old car, but
Awesome.
yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing all your knowledge. And I can't wait to rewatch this and really take in everything that we talked about. Um, I appreciate you. It's really good to see you.
Yeah, it's great to see you too, and thank you for having me, and if there's any other questions, if anybody has questions, feel free to pass my contact information on. I'm happy to chat. I love contributing to others and helping them however I can.
Absolutely. All right, girl. I love you. All my
Love
love
you
to your
too.
beautiful family. And hopefully we see each other real soon.
Yes, thank you again for having me here. This was great.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.